The negotiations between America and Iran has the world watching keenly, but more than the deal, points and conditions. It is the claims versus counterclaims on how close both the parties are to deal, which is making the headlines. Now, in a Truth Social post moments ago, Donald Trump has accused Iran of releasing the terms that have nothing to do with the written deal, also saying that Iran cannot be trusted to negotiate in good faith. He's also denounced the drone strike against Indian vessels leaving the Strait of Hormuz. He's warned Tehran to get its act together fast. That particular post has just come minutes ago. Now, Donald Trump's comment, remember, on the attack of vessels comes after US CENTCOM released separate instances and videos of the strikes to disable these ships, all of which had Indian crew on board. In fact, in one instance, 3 Indian crew members have been killed in those particular strikes. And now the US president said that it is Iran which struck the Indian vessels. Now, Iran's foreign ministry has said that while much of the agreement has been finalized, no final decision has been made yet. Officials said that Iran will not compromise on what it calls its red lines. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, meanwhile, says that he and the American president were in full agreement to keep Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. A day after Trump touted an imminent deal with Tehran. But remember, this is not the first time that Donald Trump has claimed that a deal is close and that the war is nearing an end. On multiple previous occasions, Trump has suggested that an agreement with Iran was just round the corner. So the question now is, how many times has Donald Trump claimed that an Iran deal is imminent? Well, Donald Trump has reportedly made nearly 38 to 39 such statements since late March this year, and this includes social media posts, public remarks, and media interactions. Take a look at a few of those instances.
We're negotiating now, and it'd be great if we could do something, but they have to open it up. They have to open up the Strait of Hormuz. I would only say that we're doing extremely well in that negotiation. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days, a short period of time, because they think that they are getting very close to making a deal. The Strait's going to be open to everybody. You know, we've done a good job. As far as Iran's concerned, you're going to find out what the deal is. But the main parts of the deal is they can't have a nuclear weapon. The Strait will open immediately. You know, it's going to open immediately. We have ongoing negotiations in Iran and with Iran, and that hasn't stopped. And we could have at least an idea by 1 or 2 days from now, but I think it's going well. We just made a great settlement of the war with Iran, and we're going to be subject to finalization of documents, which should get done over the next few days. That with the Strait will officially open as soon as we sign, which could be soon, very soon, maybe over the weekend, in Europe.
Now, this time, the proposed agreement, as per reports in American, Iranian, and the Arab media, would reopen the Strait of Hormuz immediately while providing Iran with sanctions relief tied to compliance. The memorandum would also extend the current ceasefire for 60 days, including in Lebanon, creating a window for nuclear negotiations. Any concrete action on Iran's nuclear program would be deferred to a second, more detailed agreement. Now, one of the remaining sticking points involves Iran's demand for immediate access to funds. Remember, Tehran has insisted on receiving some money upon signing an initial agreement, while Washington has been pushing for releases based on Iranian compliance. Another issue involving Iran's frozen assets may be addressed through a separate side arrangement. Now, President Trump has said that he expects a signing ceremony to take place over this weekend. Vice President J.D. Vance could potentially sign this agreement in Geneva. But Iranian media has reported that the information regarding the signing of the deal is absolutely false. And so, all eyes are now on the weekend. Right, with that, let me welcome my guests on the show. He's joining us from Washington, D.C. live. Giorgio Cafiero is a professor, Georgetown University, and CEO of the Gulf State Analytics. Giorgio, good evening. Welcome to WION. What is your understanding? I want to start by understanding this of what has been happening, what has been said between U.S. and Iran. Donald Trump has just put out a post saying that, look, this is not what they had agreed upon in paper, and now they're just pretending to leak details of a peace deal which they have never agreed upon, which was never talked about. Who's speaking the truth? Whom should the world believe?
Well, thank you for having me on as your guest today. Really good to be with you. As you mentioned in your program, on dozens of occasions since February 28th, Donald Trump has spoken about some sort of a deal being imminent. So I think everyone who is a realistic observer is certainly taking the remarks from Donald Trump with a grain of salt. We should also keep in mind that throughout this conflict, Donald Trump has put out statements often to influence markets or because of domestic politics here in the United States, or to try to send a certain message to the Iranian leadership. So having said that, it's still possible that some sort of an MOU, some kind of a deal is going to be signed in Europe this weekend. But, I just want to emphasize that seeing is believing, and the fact that we haven't really received any confirmation from officials in Tehran adds to my skepticism. But let's be clear, if there is going to be something signed this weekend, this is really going to be very far from a comprehensive peace agreement. This will be really an extension of the so-called ceasefire, and it might open up an opportunity for talks to take place, perhaps direct talks between the U.S. and Iran, which would give both sides an opportunity to address some of the outstanding issues. But that's going to be very hard for the two sides to work through. So I just think all this optimism about some sort of a deal being signed this weekend needs to be very cautious.
You know what also adds to the skepticism, Giorgio, and the uncertainty is the fact that, and here in India, we have been extremely concerned about it in the past few days, where Indian seafarers have been attacked, and the US CENTCOM has posted these videos. But contrary to his own CENTCOM, President Trump has said that it was the Iranian drones that attacked Indian sailors who were trying to pass through Hormuz. So, this kind of contradictory statement, not just from the US president, but within the Trump administration, from Vance, from Hegseth, and the president himself, just adds to the entire uncertainty.
Certainly, and throughout this conflict, we've seen Donald Trump's remarks. They're very contradictory, and he's also contradicted many others in his administration. The example you bring up is just one of so many, whereby we see just total dysfunction and incoherence on the part of this administration as it wages a war that has had goals constantly shifting since day one.
The peace deal is concerned, while we do not know whether that will be finalized and eventually signed over this weekend, what do you think will be the off-ramp for Iran? Because Iran has been, making claims and counterclaims as well as far as what Trump has been saying. But, like we saw yesterday, Donald Trump said that, look, we're going to be capturing the Karg Island soon. There were questions whether that might be the final off-ramp that Iran needs to end this war and succumb to American pressure. What do you think would be, something that Iran would say that, look, this is what we have finalized and we are agreeing upon the peace deal now?
Well, I think Tehran's main incentives for signing something would be to see to it that the sanctions, or at least some of the sanctions, are lifted. The Iranian economy is in horrible shape right now, so sanctions relief is certainly a number one priority for Iran. And then, obviously, there are these questions about the guarantees of Iran not being attacked again. But again, I really want to underscore why everyone has good reason to be very skeptical. And as Donald Trump has really put in his own words, the ceasefire is just basically a continuation of the war with violence at a reduced level. It's not actually about a ceasefire. So any ceasefire that does get extended. It's going to continue to be extremely fragile. And of course, there's going to be different understandings of what the ceasefire actually means. We have seen since the Pakistani mediated ceasefire went into effect, there have been so many military clashes. It's sort of kind of the new normal now when it comes to U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East, to say nothing about what the Israelis are doing, that ceasefires tend to not actually be real ceasefires in the true sense of the term.
So, of course, we'll have to wait and see whether something concrete happens, over the weekend. A lot of people and now have seen the pattern as well, that it's about the markets that are influenced when he makes such statements. But let's wait and watch what happens. Giorgio, I'll leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us on WION and sharing your perspective.
Good to be with you. Thank you.